What's good, y'all, and welcome to my review for Forbidden Door. The show just wrapped up, man. Phenomenal show, man. Obviously headlined by two dream matches and one that's a rematch from Wrestle Kingdom between Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, and of course Kazuchika Okada versus D. Bryan. Both of these matches were phenomenal, man. I definitely would say I liked Kenny and Kenny and Will Ospreay a bit more than Okada and D. Bryan. That match was fantastic in its own right, but I don't know. Something about, I feel like the match didn't, I feel like we probably will get a rematch maybe eventually, maybe at next year's Forbidden Door, or maybe another AEW pay-per-view, or hell, maybe we'll do it at New Japan show. Maybe they'll do that, they'll rematch at Wrestle Kingdom next year. Who knows? I don't think this is the last time. I think we probably will get one more match out of these two. Me personally, but I don't know, something about the match is fantastic, but I feel like it didn't quite hit that second gear that I guess I was expecting the match to hit. And yeah, but besides that, man, it was still a phenomenal match in its own right, man. But my God, Kenny and Will Ospreay, man, Dan, did they give you a 7-star classic for the ages, man? My God, that was an incredible match. But anyway, let's just jump right into the actual show. So first up we had was MJF versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. This was a great match, man. Nothing too crazy. I don't think anyone was expecting these two to drop a 5-star classic, you know, in the opening of the match. But this was a great match, man. MJF is awesome as always. Hiroshi Tanahashi is, of course, an OG of New Japan. So he started the match up, obviously, with Hiroshi being mostly in the offense. He would usually get the moves. And then, like, whenever he gets some really good offense in there, like maybe when they start the match out with the collar elbow tie-up, and, like, Hiroshi, like, kind of pushes MJF. Although it did look, I don't know if this part of the match was kind of a botch, because they locked up in a collar elbow tie, and the way MJF kind of fell back made it feel like he was gonna like really put it back and like push him away from him. Although it doesn't look like Hiroshi, excuse me, put much power into that. So I don't know if that was like a little miscommunication kind of botch where he didn't throw him as much as he should have, and kind of like MJF was overselling or not, but. That kind of looked a little bit weird. It looked like he was supposed to like maybe like put a little bit more into that push. But regardless of such, he gets pushed down to the floor. MJF is kind of like scrambling around the bottom row, being like, "What the fuck is this shit?" You know. They would keep going on it, but MJF would constantly go outside the ring. Eventually, he's like, "Fuck this shit," and he tries to make a break for it and just leaves the match. Hiroshi then starts a coward chant, which of course, you know, like always, triggers MJF to get him back into the ring. Be like, "Oh, you called me a coward," and so they keep going at it. Eventually, MJF would lock Hiroshi in an abdominal stretch, and of course he's like using the row for additional leverage to put a little extra pressure on, and you know, and then like, you know, the ref starts to come in there and be like, hey bro, you know, he starts to tell him to like let go of the rope because, you know, it's illegal, and he starts doing, you know, counting for the rope break, 1, 2, 3, then we get some 4. He's like, "What are you gonna do about it, dipshit?" I love MJF. And then this is one thing I love about AEW, and I kind of wish WWE would do this too, is that I love the refs actually fight back. And they're like, and they don't put up with this kind of shit, because he then just kicks. Then he just kind of looks at it for a second. The ref kind of looks around before he just kicks his hand off the rope. Like, that's the one thing I love about AEW. The refs don't put up with their shit. They don't take this shit lying down, bro. Aubrey also does it a couple times as well. That's one thing I love about AEW, is the refs actually fight back. That shit's so funny to me, man. But anyway, the match would continue on. Eventually, MJF's knee would get injured. He would start selling that for the remaining part of the match. Eventually, MJF would then lock Hiroshi up into I believe the move was called a shoulder breaker, right onto the injured knee, which MJF sells like he's like it's death, man. You thought his like fucking knee was just blew up or something with the way he was selling, man. It was pretty good. And then eventually, you know, Hiroshi starts to get up, and MJF's like, he's like pie facing him, pushing him down. This is, you know, he starts like kind of like Hulk up, I guess. There's no other really way I can describe it other than him just hulking up, basically feeding off of the crowd, which Hiroshi gets a little bit of offense in there, locks in a cloverleaf submission, but MJ manages to get the rope. Eventually Hiroshi would go for a move off the top rope, but MJ would counter it with the knees up, of course, injuring his knee a little bit more. He would then grab the triple B, using it, but then of course that would distract the ref. And then Hiroshi actually, while the ref, I don't know why this took so fucking long, bro. Like, I don't know what this was all about. But anyway, but the ref managed to get the triple B away from MJF, and then he goes to hand it back to like the timekeeper's there. And for some reason, man doesn't just take the belt and leave. No, my man man is stuck there for a good, I think the count went up to 13, because as this is going on, Hiroshi got MJF in a roll-up, and he had him up for the pin and everything, and the crowd was chanting, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Like I said, I think they went up to like 13 or so. I think it might have been like it was like 13 or so before, like by the end of it, when the ref actually finally turned his back, like, oh shit, and then goes to the count, or before it, I forget exactly what it was, like around like 13 was the number, is how long the count actually lasted for, before MJF would eventually kick out. He would then, of course, use the diamond ring behind the ref's back against Tanahashi, and of course would win the match. MJF, of course, is talking shit all the way up. He's all the way up there about how he's better than everyone. New Japan is indie and all that shit. He would then tweet, and then he like also MJF had like a scheduled tweet up where he said like, I scheduled because I know I would beat the Ace by now. Legend my ass, man. And of course, you know, his robe had New Japan is an indie on the back of it, man. Gotta love MJF, man. He's a fucking awesome, man. Next up we have was Punk versus Satoshi Kojima, if I'm getting Satoshi Kojima. I'm pretty sure this is actually the first ever match of Satoshi Kojima. I don't know, maybe he made an appearance at a Wrestle Kingdom show I watched a few years ago that I reviewed. Not entirely sure, but regardless of such, man, this match was fantastic. This match basically proved to us all that, yeah, Punk can still go, no problem, even after being gone for as much as he has. He still got, man. He was fantastic. This time he was rocking the trunks this time, which you guys may remember when Punk first came back, I would always kind of be like, oh my god, what's with this extra ring gear today? Why is he just wearing the trunks? They just don't look as good. I'm gonna be real with y'all, honestly. Since he's made more appearances throughout his time on AEW the first time and his return now, I'm also kind of grown with the pants and the trunks he's wearing now, along with the trunks as well as the like wrestling trunks. I don't know, boxing trunks. I don't know what else. The shorts, I guess. I should call them just the shorts. Has since grown on me, honestly. I still think he looks best when he's just wearing his normal trunks, but the pants especially do look pretty good now. The pants have really grown on me. The shorts also pretty good. Yeah, I do wonder why Punk has. I don't know if anyone's ever like interviewed him about this and asked him like why he switches around his gear, why he kind of like alternates between and doesn't just stick to the trunks. But whatever. Either way, it's grown on me since then. So. Yeah. Anyway, man, the match started out with these two in a collar elbow tie-up. These just feeling each other out for the majority of the match. Interesting thing about this match I have to mention real quick is that actually the reaction Punk got was very, very mixed, surprisingly. Which is both surprising and not surprising. It is surprising in the fact that he's up to this point since his return, he's been mostly getting predominantly cheers. So seeing like a bit more of a way more mixed reaction was kind of a little surprised because it seemed like both people were either over it or with or behind Punk, but not surprised given, what happened, and, there was like, fuck you, there were like, fuck Punk chants or fuck CM Punk chants at like, I think like at a Dynamite a while ago, but right after all this happened when the Bucks came back, I believe, somewhere around that time frame, I believe, so... Yeah, and also we were in Canada. Kenny's from Canada, so that could have also played a factor on why there was a bit more of a mixed reaction for Punk. If I had to wager, it sounded like there were a little bit more boos than cheer this time, it sounded like. I'm not entirely sure. It was very 50-50, but I think there might have been more boos than there were cheers. Slightly more boos than cheers. Either way, man, these two going at eventually Kojima locks Punk in the corner, starts hitting him a few times, and then eventually this kind of Punk gets a little frustrated before chasing after him, which he then turns into a hip toss, which he then gets into a shoulder tackle shoulder tackles him onto the apron. As the match continues on, the man starts popping his pecs for a little bit before Punk yeets him out of the ring, starts popping his pecs too, which was pretty funny. And he goes to like each one of the corners, each side of the ring, and does it, man. Gotta love Punk, man. He also just randomly decided to hit like a leg drop and even like cups his ear like Hulk Hogan, and like he did that, which was kind of bizarre. I mean, Punk is the kind of guy who will do whatever the fuck he pleases, but yeah, those guys we were considering like apparently Punk doesn't really like Hogan either. Anyway, so I'm kind of surprised he's doing like, I don't know, he just did the troll. I don't fucking know, but it was pretty funny. Eventually, anyway, they go out to the outside. by the timekeeper's area, and Satoshi Kojima would hit him with a chop before he hits him with another chop that sends Punk yeet all the way over to the outside onto where the timekeeper's area with the ring announcers and everything, man. Just completely yeets him over the barricade, man. Looked pretty insane. They eventually continue on as we go on. Punk would eventually get a duel on the top rope, and he hits the punches in the corner. He would eventually also do these overhead chop things. I'm not exactly sure what they are. Apparently, if you're judging from commentary, what do we have really much? I'm assuming they're Kojima's thing. Like I said, I am very unfamiliar with this guy. This is the first time I've ever seen a match of his. Anyway, eventually Punk would get him into the corner and starts hitting with a series of clotheslines while he looks into the camera, chatting, "Kojima, Kojima, Kojima." Is Punk a Metal Gear fan, I wondered? Because literally, whenever I hear Kojima, I just think of Hideo Kojima, man. That's all. I was just like, what if Punk plays Metal Gear? AJ plays Metal Gear. I don't know. But he hits him in the corners before he eventually then he hits him with a back suplex down to the ground, which gets him a near fall. Punk's like, okay, not bad, not bad. Eventually, as the match continues on, Kojima would hit rapid fire chops on Punk in two corners, which look pretty nice, man. I'm sure those rapid fire chops look like they probably fucking hurt, man. He would hit an elbow drop off the top rope for another near fall. Eventually, Punk would then go up to the top rope and hit his own elbow drop, Macho Man style and everything, man. Although Punk was taking his sweet ass time to hit this move, but he eventually hits the move, which ends up a near fall, but then he instantly counters into the Anaconda Vine. It looked pretty nice, very nice transition. As the match would continue onward, Punk would go for a GTS, but he managed to block it, but then eventually he managed to hit the GTS again, and then of course wins the match 1, 2, 3. Fantastic match, man. Punk looked fantastic. Looking forward to round 2, or whoever's going to face up Punk with, which we know is going to be either Samoa Joe or Roddy, which I'm very excited. I think that's going to be on Dynamite. I'm not sure. It might be on Collision. I can't remember exactly what show it was on, but I'm sure that's going to be a great match. I'm personally rooting for Samoa Joe because y'all know I love Samoa Joe. Y'all know we know they would tear the house down. And apparently I've heard, from other matches on commentary, previously when during a Collision, that they apparently had a bunch of fantastic matches during their time in ROH. Sure, they were both 20 years younger by that point, but as we can see today, both Joe and Punk can still go at it, no problem. So that's what I'm personally looking forward to. I'm hoping Joe wins that match so we can see Samoa Joe and Punk go at it, because I'm sure that would be a great match. Although I'm sure Punk and Roddy would also give us a fantastic match as well. So we really can't go wrong with either of them, but I'm personally hoping for Samoa Joe, me personally, man. Eventually, also Punk would also help Kojima back up before he heads back to the back. So nice sportsmanship. Anyway, we will then have the Fatal 4-Way match between Orange Cassidy, Zack Sabre Jr. Next up was Jungle Boy versus Sonata. This was a great match as well, man. And, first off, I think it's safe to say Red Shoes was the most over man in this entire match. First off, when the match started off, there was a chant of Red Shoes, and he's like, oh, and then I think there was another one a little later on the match that says, we love Red Shoes. I don't know for sure. I think they were saying we love Red Shoes. Not sure if you guys can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but yeah, Red Shoes was probably the most over man in this entire match. Anyway, the match starts off with a collar over the top of it as they feel each other out. Eventually, they go out to the outside where Jungle Boy hits him with suicide dive. Once they get back inside, Jungle Boy goes for the Paradise Lock. Doesn't manage to lock it in there, but Sonata manages to hit the Paradise Lock into Jungle Boy. And before he takes his sweet-ass time, before he finally, literally kicks him in the ass with a shotgun dropkick to finally get him out of there, man. So, they eventually keep going at it. They would eventually have a chop off, which Jungle Boy hit some, really heavy chops onto Sonata. Even Red Shoes was feeling them, bro. And yeah, they sounded devastating. Sonata would then get him up in a fireman's carry, which Jungle Boy was able to counter into a submission. I forget what the move is called. I really just looked right back at it, but somehow forgot what this move was called. Some sort of lock, but either way, he gets him up there where he basically has him in a crossroad position before he then just sits down there with his legs wrapped around his midsection to keep the pressure on in a sleep open. I forget what this move was called, man. It pisses me off because it was a really cool name too. But he locks in that submission that's apparently one of Sonata's moves, and if eventually Sonata is able to get his foot onto the bottom rope, as the match will continue on, Sonata would actually be able to hit the move on Jungle Boy later on in the match. As the match would continue on, Jungle Boy, Sonata, tongue-tied today. Sonata would hit a moonsault off the top rope onto Jungle Boy to win the match and retain the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Great match, man. Jungle Boy looked great, and of course, the biggest thing about this match was the ending, where Jungle Boy finally turned heel onto Hook, and yeah, definitely a tree where this is going to go with a heel Jungle Boy. Very tree. Then, of course, you also had, Taz, a commentator, being like, "You fucked up, boy. You fucked up." Because, that's a son and everything, man. So, yeah, I'm curious to know what's going to happen with Taz. I want to know if he's going to get involved at all and maybe start throwing some hands with Jungle Boy. That would also be kind of sick, honestly. But we'll have to wait and see on that, where the future holds that. But definitely intrigued what a heel Jungle Boy has in store for us. Next up was a 10-man tag between the Blackpool Combat Club, Shota Umino, if I pronounce it right, and Konosuke Takashita, if I pronounce that right, versus the Elite, Eddie Kingston, and Tomohiro Ishii. I'm not even going to try to recap this match because this match was absolute batshit insanity, super kicks, Cesaro swings, it was all there, bro. It was absolute madness, bro. I honestly don't even remember half the shit that was even in this match. But obviously the big thing with this one was Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. Which, first up, before we even jump right in the match, we got to talk about this one thing. We got to talk about Eddie Kingston's shirt, bro. This man, this fucking madman, came out to a shirt that said, "Redeem these nuts." I swear to God, this better be on AEW shop, bro, because I would actually buy it. That's funny. I love Eddie Kingston, man. But, so, the match would go on. Eventually, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston would feed them. The crowd's losing, going crazy. They're talking shit to each other. They start having a chop-off, and Eddie starts, ripping off, the straps and everything before they continue on, bro. And then from there, we have madness. You had the Bucks holding up, I think it was, Wheeler Yuta up off the apron with his legs, like his body dangling off the apron with his legs on there, holding him up, and Adam Page would hit like a running shooting star press or whatever it is off on the apron onto him that looked sick as hell, bro. I already mentioned Eddie Kingston was going on. Eventually, Eddie Kingston and Cesaro would go down. You guys know that those two have beef. I find it funny that they still have beef even after all these months. It's been since their match with I believe it was the Jericho Appreciation Society, if I remember correctly, that there is still beef between Cesaro and Eddie Kingston. Then again, I'm pretty sure it was like an Excalibur on commentary. It might have been Tony Schiavone mentioned that you do not make an enemy of Eddie Kingston. That's the kind of man that holds a grudge for life, bro. So maybe that's why I guess it's not that strange that he still has beef with Cesaro for whatever reason, which that was pretty funny. Eventually, as the match would continue on, Cesaro would swing, which would then lead to a drop kick by Wheeler Yuta, and eventually Ishin would eventually get the pin to win the match. It was a fantastic tag match. Obviously, I didn't do the match justice, man. There was so much batshit insanity for this match, man. But yeah, this was a fantastic match. It was a lot of fun to watch. Next up was Toni Storm versus Will Nightingale. This was a good match. This was a great. Will Nightingale looked great in this match, man. She would actually hit a moonsault off the second rope during this match, which is pretty surprising. I did not think a woman of her size was able to pull off such a maneuver, but yeah, it looked great. And yeah, nothing really too crazy about this one. Tony would get outside the ring a couple of times. Regroup with the rest of the Outcasts. Ruby and Paige would get involved. They would eventually get kicked out. I already mentioned the moonsault. Eventually, Tony would get a thumb to the eye onto Will Nightingale. Hit Storm Zero for the 1, 2, 3. Good match. Nothing really too crazy about this one, man. Just a solid, good wrestling match. Definitely a great show for Will Nightingale, man. She's very good. Then we have what was easily the best match of the night: Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, which is probably my most anticipated match of the night outside of Kenny and Okada, or D. Bryan and Okada, excuse me. This match was fucking incredible, man. A lot of people have been saying on Twitter this was like a match of the decade, candidate. I don't know if I will go that far, just given, we're still very early on the year, but definitely I can see why people are saying this one. It could definitely be in the conversation. Match of the year for especially AEW, absolutely, man. But if you do want to know a match I would probably consider like a match of the decade, I think Roman versus Sammy would be up there for me, man. That's definitely a match I would probably put in contention for that, man, because that match was special. But anyway, this was a phenomenal match. I don't know if I'll go as far as say this is a match of the decade or something, but it was an amazing match regardless. And because of that, I'm not even going to bother trying to do this match just because I know I won't recapping it. So I'm just telling you guys some of my favorite spots, and it'll probably be a little bit of a blazer. So bear with me, guys. So obviously you had Will Ospreay come out. He had like this nice little video package of like protests and like riots, excuse me, going out outside of Canada. Before he would eventually make his entrance with Don Callis, some security guard there. Before Kenny would make his entrance, and we were off to the races. Of course, Don Callis instantly starts getting involved, like trying to grab at Kenny's leg, and do a bunch of other stuff, which eventually would get him kicked out of the match by the referee, while the security guards are blocking Kenny Omega from Don Callis. They would continue on, and eventually Will Ospreay would make Kenny Omega bleed by basically just like, this man, oh my god. First off, he also had like an Oz cutter on the apron, which looked insane. And also, he also had this other move where Kenny was like draping over the ropes. His whole body was like leaning over the top rope, just dangling on, and he hits a shooting star press off the top rope onto Kenny Omega that looked absolutely insane, man. Looked absolutely insane. But anyway, as I was saying, he gets him out to the outside, and he starts banging his head into like the top of the announce table. Now, bro, let me tell you, Kenny face planted these motherfuckers, bro. Like, usually you always see them put their hands up there and kind of like doing that, I guess, to probably soften the blow a little bit because concussions and everything, man. Nuh-uh. Kenny wasn't doing nothing. He just face plants into those motherfuckers. His hands are nowhere to be seen, bro. As Will Ospreay is just slamming his head over and over into it. Like, bro, he is just eating these moves, man. I was like, God, it looked nasty as hell, man. Definitely sold the vision stuff in him, not putting his hands up or like anything to try and solve the blow. Just face planting, directly making contact right into the top of the announce table. So then he takes it off there, drapes it over the ring, and then just slams his head right into it, man. Looked absolutely insane, man. And then Kenny starts to bleed later on into the match. Kenny would start like banging Will Ospreay's head against the steel step, which would cause him to bleed. And bro, Will Ospreay bleeding, and the visual had like the blood he had going on there through basically the rest of the match looked amazing, man. Like the visual of his with the crimson match, everything looked amazing. I love if we're talking about like who bled better, who looked better with the blood, I would definitely say Will Ospreay kind of like bladed or whatever the hell. He was bleeding just the right spot to make it look real good, man. But that's me. He did look really good. He did look really cool with the blood. He did look badass with the blood and everything. And it obviously enhanced the match a lot with the blood. But, that was awesome. So, and then you start to see like, Loki, I don't know if he maybe bladed a little too much or he just was busted open hard way. I don't know what happened. But the man was bleeding a lot. Like, I would dare say he was damn near bleeding like Prime Ric Flair. Okay, maybe not as much as Prime Ric Flair because y'all know Prime Ric Flair. That man would bleed like a motherfucker. He wasn't bleeding like that, but there was blood everywhere for basically the rest of the match, man. Like, there was blood all over, like, the steel steps and everything, man, and just looked nasty. Anyway, Kenny would then take the steel steps, put them on its side, and then get Will Ospreay on top of the steps and hit a DDT right on the steps. It also looked nasty as hell, man. As the match would continue on, Don Callis would come back into the ring, trying to help out Will Ospreay. He would be guarding him against Kenny, begging him not to go for the V trigger, which of course he does anyway. And then they're having a tug of war for Will Ospreay, and then eventually he hands him the screwdriver when Kenny puts him up for the one-wing angel, which he uses that to get him down there. Eventually, Will Ospreay would then actually grab the Canadian flag and start just rubbing it in between his legs. Like Mr. Krabs when he was getting that, when he got his first his first dollar, whatever it was, doing that episode of SpongeBob. That was basically what he was doing. I don't know why I'm bringing up SpongeBob. That's the thing that came up to my mind when I saw Will Ospreay doing that shit with the Canadian flag. It was funny as hell. And then he starts tripping over it, biting on it, and putting his hand on his heart and everything, man. It was the funniest shit ever. And then of course, Kenny being a naturally born Canadian, being born and raised in Canada, he did not take too kindly to this disrespect and starts literally strangling the man with the fucking flag. He's throwing him all over the ring with it before he then just throws him over the top rope and starts strangling him with it. Bro. And then of course Kenny celebrates play before giving it to a kid in the crowd that Will Ospreay was shit talking earlier in the match, which was pretty funny. As the match would continue on, Will Ospreay would then get Kenny up into a one-winged angel, and Kenny kicked out at one, bro. But I think this is when I knew, 7-star classic. This is a match of the year. Kenny was right here when Kenny kicked out the one-winged angel, bro. Such an amazing spot. And then Will Ospreay is shocked. You know, he's like he's looking at him like he just saw a ghost when he saw this. While Don Callis is like screaming at his ear, you know, telling him to do shit. Eventually, he would then eventually go for the hidden blade into the Stormbreaker to get the 1-2-3, become the new IWGP US Champion, bro. Phenomenal match, man. I did not do this match justice. Rewatch. Go back and watch if you didn't already. I don't know why you're watching this review if you didn't. But yeah, phenomenal match, man. Just an incredible match. This was everything I was originally that I wanted with the original Wrestle Kingdom match we had earlier this year. This is basically what I want. This was the match I feel they should have had at Wrestle Kingdom. The match at Wrestle Kingdom was amazing in its own, but I feel like this is the match that I was kind of like picturing in my head and expecting when I heard that they were going to be on Wrestle Kingdom, man. Both those matches were amazing, but this one, oh yeah, this was a good one, man. This match was incredible. So then we had the trios match between Sammy, Chris Jericho, and Minoru Suzuki versus Tetsuya Naito, Sting, and Darby Allin. Sting actually came out with what looked like to be Joker Sting from what I saw on Twitter. That's at least what everyone else was saying. I'm not sure if it was or not. I wasn't paying attention to you, but that was everything with Twitter. Either way, the face paint he was rocking looked really cool, man. So we started the match off with Naito and Sammy G in the ring. Those two were going at it. Eventually, Sammy will go onto the outside, and it looks like that Tetsuya Naito was going to go for a suicide dive, but he just does runs over a couple times before doing his little tranquilo thing, you know, which, you know. So they would keep going up for a while. Then Darby and Minoru would get inside the ring. Those two were going out where they started having like a chop off and like some slapping off, and bro, Minoru would just bitch slapping Darby this entire time, bro. He would always just knock him right on his ass with like the chop he delivered, as well as like a little like right palm strike he hit him with. That he just knocked down Darby down to the ground. Eventually, we would get to Chris Jericho and Sting going at it. Complete madness would go on before we eventually get back to Sting and Chris Jericho. They have the ring to themselves going at it. Eventually, Chris Jericho will grab out a table, tells Sammy to go and put Sting on it, and then tells Sammy to do a 450 splash on him on the table. They start arguing for a little bit, but eventually Sammy reluctantly does it, hits the 450. They would continue on the match, but eventually Tetsuya Naito would get the win after hitting an atomic drum into a clothesline by Sting and getting the roll-up pin. This was a fantastic match, a really fun six-man tag match, and yeah, not much more to say other than that. Other than, you know, Chris Jericho would eventually start attacking everyone with Floyd at the end of the match because of course it was, but of course Sting would take care of that. And yeah, then we finally had the main event between D. Bryan and Okada. Now, like I mentioned before, this was a fantastic match. Do not get it twisted. I love this match, and this is an amazing match. But I was kind of expecting them to go a little bit more, and they were definitely holding back. You can tell they were not in their final forms during this match. Like, if I had to compare this to anything, just like, let's just go with Dragon Ball, because fucking why not? They were both in their base form during this match. Maybe Kaioken times 10. Maybe. Or maybe even, I will go as far as say, maybe they were at Super Saiyan 1. But they were not nowhere higher than that, bro. Well, I was expecting them to be at, like, Super Saiyan Blue, you know, with Kaioken, you know, or Ultra Instinct, bro. Like, I was expecting them to just go off and tear the house, which they kind of did, but they weren't going as crazy as I thought they were, man. Hopefully, we do see a rematch between these two, like later on down the road, like I mentioned at the start of the video, with either Wrestle Kingdom next year or another AEW show where we do get that true 7-star classic. They give you the greatest wrestling match ever, you know, that kind of thing, bro. You know, where they're just going crazy. Hopefully, we do see a rematch. I think we will. I think we will see a rematch of these two somewhere down the line. Please, I hope so, because this match is amazing. I would love to see them go at it again, and maybe actually go out and go all out next time, hopefully. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Anyway, so first and foremost, we gotta talk about D. Bryan's theme. It's the final countdown. So yeah, if y'all didn't hear, like literally like the day before the show on Saturday, if I remember correctly, there was a tweet about how the lead singer of Europe, or whatever the band is that does the final countdown, came to like some agreement with the rest of the band for like selling off his rights to the song. So now it was viable for TK to get the song rights to the final countdown, which I believe was D. Bryan's ROH theme, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And I was kind of like, oh, that'd be cool, but I wasn't holding my breath on it for nothing. But lo and behold, we get here tonight, and boom, there's the final countdown. I was losing my goddamn mind. I'm like, TK, you crazy son of a bitch, you actually got the fucking song. And yeah, it was an awesome. The crowd was like, you know, singing along with it too. It's the final countdown. So good, man. D. Bryan was having a kick out of it too. You could tell he had a big, massive smile on his face, and it was just awesome, man. Eventually, of course, Okada would make his way to the ring, and the match started off. We start the match out with these two feeling each other out, calling them tie about some basic submission holds, rest holds, just feeling each other out before they would eventually go up to the outside, where Okada would hit D. Bryan with a big boot onto the outside, and then goes for his crossbody, which I was kind of surprised he was able to hit it because he did not have that much room to hit the move. Like he usually has a lot more room at Wrestle Kingdom to do that crossbody, at least he's at the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdom. But I was actually surprised he was able to hit it with because it was pretty narrow where he was doing it at the AEW arena because he didn't have a lot of room, but he was able to hit it no problem. As the match would continue on, D. Bryan would go and hit one of his kicks onto Okada's chest, and he just screamed at him like, "Oh yeah!" And then they start chopping each other, man, before they continue on. Eventually, D. Bryan will go for a suicide dive onto the outside, but Okada catches him, tries to go for a rainmaker, but he dodges it. Shotgun drop kick onto Okada to the outside, but then when he goes for his patented kicks, misses the last one because, of course, I swear, D. Bryan 90% of the time always misses that last kick. He always misses it, probably because he takes a sweet ass time, going for it. But eventually, Okada would put him up into a tombstone piledriver position, backs up to the ramp before eventually hitting the move, which I know I've mentioned this countless times in other videos, man, but I still don't like the fact that Okada does a tombstone, man. Like, bro, you're not the Undertaker. Stop using this fucking move. I'm probably the only person that actually gives a shit about that. I don't know. I wonder what New Japan fans think of that. Or they're like, nah, fuck you, you WWE shill. Anyway, that's all. I was like, bro, that's Undertaker's move. Why are you using Undertaker? You're not Kane. But anyway, They would continue on the match. D. Bryan would of course go for his running kicks onto the turnbuckles. Does that a couple times, but Okada would counter for the third one with a drop. Which I gotta say, I don't know if I mentioned before, but Okada has a beautiful drop kick, man. Like, my God, I know that I believe it was Kevin Kelly on commentary mentions that Okada started as a track and field star, which probably explains why he has such a good-looking drop kick. But yeah, he probably has the best-looking drop kick in the business right now, man. It is so beautiful looking at that thing, man. It's just, it's amazing. It's an amazing drop kick, man. So that would happen. Eventually, D. Bryan would eventually go for the label lock, or he would go for a disarmer while I was grappling him down into a disarmer, then transition that into the label lock, but Okada managed to kick out. Eventually, he would be able to hit the Rainmaker! And of course, there's arm stretch out camera cut thing, which is always good to look at, man. It's always good seeing that. As the match would continue on, D. Bryan would once again lock in the label lock around the end of the match, and Okada would start to reach the rope, but D. Bryan would counter it, transition the submission to a different submission, so that his arms were tied up behind his back, and eventually Okada would tap out for D. Bryan to win the match. I was also kind of surprised they won by tap out. I thought, D. Bryan was going to win the match, probably by a pinfall, or maybe Okada was going to win the match. This match was definitely a match where it could have gone either way on who was going to win. But yeah, D. Bryan won. Obviously, I'm happy for him. I was definitely rooting for D. Bryan. And like I said, this was still a fantastic match. I would give this match either 4.5 stars or 5 stars on the the 5-star scale. But hopefully we do get a rematch and we do get that 7-star class that I was hoping for. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, because oh my God, these two had an amazing match here, and just give them more time, let them go all out. I don't know, have them fight over the IWGP Heavyweight title, because Okada's gonna get it again. Have them fight for it at Wrestle Kingdom or something, and just let them just tear the house down, man. Or maybe, maybe next year Forbidden Door we get Punk and Okada. That'd be nice. That would be awesome, bro. If we got Punk and Okada, man, that would be an amazing match, man. But we'll do it so that hopefully, Punk stays on good behavior for another year so that we can get to that point. We'll have to wait to see on that, but yeah. Anyway, man, this was a fantastic show, man. Overall, my final verdict for Forbidden Door will be a 9.5 out of 10, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you're new. Follow me on my socials if you feel like it. Links down screen box below. And as always, come back for more. See you guys next time. You